Man has strange, round holes in his finger. When doctors see them, they call the police. When Peter first noticed the strange holes on his thumb, he was completely frightened. He had no idea what could have caused this or how potentially dangerous it was. But he would soon find out. He went to the doctor that same afternoon, but when the man took a look, the message to Peter wasn't good. The doctor immediately called the police after determining what was happening. Peter was left without explanation. The doctor ran some tests, and after seeing the results, immediately called the police and rushed out of the room, leaving him behind. When Peter woke up, it seemed like any other morning. He got up and dragged his feet to the kitchen to make his coffee. Even as he prepared the coffee, he didn't notice anything wrong. Until he was about to pour the coffee into the cup when he saw it. He was about to scream. Peter, at 40, was single. He had dated in the past, but it never worked out. He had planned a new date for tonight and hoped this time it would work out. He had spent a long time getting ready and really wanted everything to go well. It would be the first time he would meet the girl in person, but not everything would go as planned. He met the woman online and knew it was a remote possibility, but he met her anyway. The date was nothing extraordinary. She didn't really seem that interested, and he still wasn't sure if he wanted to see her again. But the next morning, he was sure he didn't. The morning after the date, Peter discovered something strange with his thumb. It hurt a bit, but it was only when he looked closely that he saw exactly why it hurt. The thumb scared him a lot. It was covered in small holes. He thought maybe something had stuck to his thumb, but upon closer inspection, he saw that the holes were piercing his skin. He pressed with his other fingers, and it hurt a bit more. Something was clearly wrong, but Peter didn't know what it was. He thought for a while that maybe some insect had bitten him or even gotten into him. Maybe it had stuck to his thumb overnight. But he doubted it. He had never seen an insect do something like that. Peter searched online and concluded that no insect had done this. It had to be something worse. The more he looked, the more confused he became. These were not just small holes. There was something inside them. He couldn't make out, but he was sure there was something more there. The holes were hard, and whatever was inside them was hard too. He needed to do something, and he had an idea. Peter decided to try to remove whatever was in his thumb with some tweezers. He went to the bathroom and grabbed his tweezers, but before he could poke himself in the thumb, he hesitated. He really had no idea what he was facing. Doing this could make it worse, but he still had to do something. Peter didn't like doctors. He preferred to deal with things himself. He rarely made appointments unless he felt really sick. And as much as he hated the idea of going to the doctor, he knew this wasn't something he should deal with alone. So, he took the plunge and called the doctor. The doctor's office scheduled a non-emergency appointment for later that same day. They told him there would be others ahead of him, but they would definitely see him by the end of the day at the latest. In the meantime, the doctor told Peter he could already do something to prepare for the appointment. He told him he needed to think about anything that had changed recently that could have caused this. Anything out of the ordinary would be of great help for the doctor to figure out exactly what was wrong. Peter agreed to think about it and hung up the phone. But what could have caused this, he really didn't know. Peter thought about last week. He hadn't really done anything out of the ordinary. He had gone for a hike in the forest a few days ago. He could have easily touched something out there. Maybe a fungus or a contaminated piece of moss. That could definitely be an option. As Peter continued to think, the idea that the hike caused this didn't make much sense. Other people had done the same hike. It was a popular route, and he wouldn't be the first person to experience this. There would have to be other signs. He decided to dismiss it as an answer, but there had to be something else. It was hard to think of something that was out of the routine. Peter was a normal guy. He didn't do much besides occasionally hiking, going to the local cafe, working from home, and not going out much. He was really a boring person. But then he realized something out of the ordinary really happened the night before. Peter had completely forgotten about the date the night before. He had been chatting with the woman online for a while, and they finally decided to have a date. Peter was excited to try going out again. He hadn't found his soulmate yet and hoped this date would work out. Things would end up taking an unexpected turn, however. As he began to think about it, she did something that showed she was really interested. It was a strange date, but that wasn't all. Thinking about their conversations, Peter wasn't sure why she had contacted him in the first place. Reviewing his messages with her, it became increasingly clear that she didn't really like him, and Peter was just a little desperate and not thinking clearly. But then a thought crossed his mind. She could have something to do with all of this. But Peter couldn't see how. Could his date have something to do with this? They hadn't gotten physical in any way, and he hadn't contacted her since the night before. She also hadn't sent a message. If she had done something, she wouldn't have said anything. He wasn't sure, but it was time for the doctor's appointment. He had to go. When Peter went for the appointment, he still had no idea what was happening with his thumb. He continued to think about it as he drove to the doctor's office, but couldn't think of anything. Fortunately, the holes in his thumb didn't seem to have changed much. They had grown a little more and were now more evident to the eye, but it wasn't so bad. Well, Peter arrived at the doctor's office and sat in his car for a second, trying to think of other possible answers. He really couldn't think of anything else. He took a deep breath, entered the doctor's office, and checked in. He thought he would have to wait a long time to see the doctor, but it turned out not as long as he expected. While waiting in the doctor's office waiting room, Peter was getting a ridiculous amount of attention. At this point, the holes in his thumb were quite evident, and everyone around him was surprised to see them. Peter didn't realize people were staring at him, at least not until their curiosity became very evident. The other people in the waiting room didn't try to hide their curiosity. The few children who were there wanted to go look, but their parents held them back. Still, it was as if everyone had forgotten why they were there with their own medical issues. Everyone wanted to know what was happening with Peter, and to be fair, he did too. Then the doctor came out to call the next patient. All the patients in the waiting room collectively agreed that he should have attended to Peter first. None of their problems were too serious, but Peter's clearly was. Peter was a little discouraged by this, but he thanked the others anyway. He said it was really worrying, but he could wait. However, the doctor didn't agree. As soon as they entered his office, the doctor could properly observe Peter's thumb. He was surprised, to say the least. He had never seen anything like it. He would definitely remember if he had seen it. And to make matters worse, the doctor hadn't even seen anything like it in his medical books. He had no idea. The doctor knew this would take some time. He made some calls so that his waiting patients could be referred to other doctors on duty. Peter needed more of his attention, and he would ensure they found a cure for whatever was happening. The doctor ordered some tests for Peter. While they waited for the results, he examined Peter's thumb closely. The strange thing was that while before Peter felt some pain, now he felt nothing. His entire thumb was completely numb. It didn't even hurt when the doctor squeezed it. That was a bad sign. The doctor continued to investigate Peter's thumb, and when he got the first results, he was disappointed. The tests he had requested hadn't found anything yet. There were still a few others he could do, but he needed Peter's permission. It would take up much of Peter's time. What would he do? Peter agreed to do the tests, and while they waited for the results, the doctor, who still hadn't found anything useful, posted some photos of Peter's thumb on a medical forum. He hoped some other doctor had seen something like this before. It would take a while until they got an answer. Peter decided he needed some fresh air and went to the bathroom. While he was out, the doctor received a private message from another user on the forum. He eagerly opened it, hoping it was the answer he was looking for, and to his luck, it was. But it was also terrible news. Terrible, and everything would have to change quickly. Indeed, another doctor had already seen this condition before, and if they didn't act soon, it could become a very big problem for everyone, including Peter. The doctor read the message over and over again and knew that if this other doctor was right, he would need to act quickly. Peter's doctor waited for the results, which came almost immediately after reading the forum message. That was it. He had the results, and it chilled him to the bone. The other doctor was right. Peter's doctor stepped out of his office, and soon the whole place was in chaos. Peter returned from the bathroom. His thumb didn't look good. The holes were starting to spread to the rest of his hand. He was getting very scared now. But he knew he needed to show the doctor there was just one problem. The doctor wasn't in his office when Peter returned. What would he do now? Peter was deciding what to do when he heard something happen behind him. The door he had just entered through had been closed from the outside. He was trapped here. And to make matters worse, he could hear the doctor telling others that he had called the police. What was going on? Peter pounded on the door and asked for an explanation, but no one wanted to talk to him. All the nurses and doctors were frantically talking among themselves. Nobody was answering his questions. All they told him was that he needed to remain calm until the police arrived. But that wasn't enough for Peter. Peter was nervous and scared, and the staff's reaction to his thumb was really starting to worry him. Why was this such a big problem? Was he going to die? A million thoughts raced through his head. He tried to keep calm, but it was becoming impossible. Peter didn't want to die this soon. Peter's fears turned into anger. Why was no one talking to him? Then, another idea kicked in. He started kicking the door, desperate to get out. The doctors on the other side yelled for him to stop, but Peter couldn't hear them over his own pounding. He was determined to get out. After a few kicks, the door lock broke, and the door swung open completely. The people on the other side started screaming, and Peter's doctor stepped back. Peter stood there, panting with strength. It hadn't been easy to kick the door open, but he needed answers. If anyone had to tell what was happening, it would be at that moment. Peter's doctor ordered everyone else to leave and told Peter to stay behind. He shouldn't approach anyone at this moment. The fear on his doctor's face told Peter everything he needed to know about his fate, but Peter was determined. He told them he wouldn't stay behind unless they gave him answers. Before his doctor could speak, 3 armed policemen entered the building and saw Peter. The doctor pointed at Peter and began yelling, "It's him." The 3 policemen carefully drew their weapons and aimed at Peter, who was now fainting. What the hell was going on? Peter quickly raised his hands in the air as the police turned their attention to him. There were almost tears in his eyes. He pleaded with everyone to tell him what was going on as he saw the holes in Peter's thumb now occupying almost half of his hand. The police told him to stay back. One of the officers calmly explained to Peter that they would tell him everything, but he needed to be isolated immediately. Peter agreed to the terms but firmly stated that he wouldn't hesitate to kick another door open to get answers. He was terrified, and no one was telling him anything. Peter returned to the doctor's office, and the door closed behind him. He could see the staff coming in with heavy cleaning materials and starting to clean everything. The floor, the walls, the door, anything. His doctor first apologized for not telling Peter what was happening. He was very scared. It wasn't every day that someone showed up with a horrible flesh-eating virus, and he needed to follow procedures he had never had to do before. He felt terrible, but there was more. He discussed with Peter what he had done the day before. Peter had gone for a hike and then had an appointment that evening. Fortunately for Peter, the uncomfortable appointment wasn't the cause of all this. Instead, it was more likely that he had touched some infected plant during the hike. But which one? Peter wasn't sure what to tell them. He told the police and the doctor which route he had taken and what he had seen, which could be helpful. He didn't know what else he could do, focused more on what the treatment plan was. Could they even treat him, or would this virus devour his hand? Fortunately for Peter, the hospital had the medication he needed, but he would have to be isolated for a while. The police got involved because they needed to talk to Peter about his hike, but when they saw him outside the isolated room, they panicked because his doctor had also panicked. It was chaos, but that wasn't all. They also needed to ensure that no one else got infected. Peter was safely transported to a better hospital, where he could be isolated and receive treatment for the virus that was devouring his hand. Fortunately, the medication halted the spread of the virus, and within a few days, it began to reverse the problem. But what about the plant? The police had kept everyone out of the way, and after an intense search, they found a plant that was not native to the area. It was tested, and it turned out to be the cause of Peter's problem. It was uprooted and discarded. There had been no more cases of infection since then, and within a month, Peter was completely healed and ready to start dating again. Friends, thus ends our story for today. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with your friends and family. See you soon with another story to surprise you. A big hug, and may God bless you all.